steak last week, which I'm not going to make this week. I made sure I'm not going to make it this week. I forgot to take the trash up to the side of the street last week, so the trash can, was still full of trash this week.
I thought you said you made the ultimate steak last week.
No, I actually did make a good steak last week, but no, I made the ultimate mistake. There's just nothing where there's no, it's not as good as steak. I think there was actually some steak that we didn't eat that, and parts of it I don't know that were in the trash can, so it's kind of a twofer there. But there's just nothing worse than that. Like come home, all right, trash is in the kitchen, gonna take it out, and then I'm like, forgot to take the trash can up to the street, so it's not on them, it's on me. So they take our trash on Thursdays, so I put that thing out yesterday at 4 o'clock on Wednesday. There was no forgetting. That thing's been out there for a day and a half.
It happens. The way of the road.
Yeah, but still though, it's no excuse. I'm an adult. I mean, Elon Musk landed stuff backwards on wooden ramps in the Indian Ocean. I can't take the trash out on Thursday.
That's garbage, man.
That is garbage. And you're right.
Look, everyone makes mistakes and everybody has those days.
Yeah.
Okay. I found myself yesterday being the only one screaming in the middle of a Mexican restaurant when Aaron Judge hit a tank. Am I upset with myself? No. Did no one else really get it? I guess not.
Were you by yourself?
Yeah, it was.
How was the food?
Phenomenal. I got the Tex-Mex burrito.
So I just don't believe in Tex-Mex. I think you either eat food that's from Texas or you eat Mexican food. I don't like when we do Tex-Mex.
Well, is that different?
Stuff. Yeah, they are. There's some difference in that. Not that I love food from Texas, but that should be Tex food, not
What do they eat
we
in Texas that they don't eat in Mexico?
Well, there's some things. There's
what?
some things. When you look at Texas, they eat hope because again they have all the resources there. The University of Texas don't win anything. I'm not a big Tex-Mex guy. I want true, authentic Mexican food or true, authentic Texan food. That is a real thing. That is actually really happening.
Love it.
That's true. Lane Kiffin sounds off on Ole Miss fans not attending games. We're going to reveal our Week 4 NFL power rankings and break down the game for tonight. And Matt Moscona joins us to talk LSU and Yankees baseball. I'm Jay Crane. Welcome to Crane & Company. The band Cinderella said it best. You don't know what you got till it's gone. And after a recent press conference where Ole Miss head football coach Lane Kiffin compared the Rebels' home atmosphere to a high school game, maybe the hotty-toddy faithful should heed that warning. Kiffin even went as far as to say he's tried to increase the excitement via social media going on 2 years, and you could literally feel the frustration in his voice. Now, it's already hard enough to win at this level with some of the best game day atmospheres in the country. And in the SEC, raucous crowds should be the norm and the standard. Recruits need to be captivated by the noise and energy level because the schools Ole Miss is recruiting against continue to raise the stakes when it comes to game day atmospheres. I know this, you know this, and Lane knows this. It is literally keeping up with the Joneses. Now, it's hard to fight with a hand tied behind your back, but it's even harder to recruit with one. Lane likes to have a good time and troll on occasion, but this was no joke. He was legitimately let down by what he's seen from the fan base so far. And while I'm sure this will lead to a crazy atmosphere this Saturday with a top 10 Kentucky Wildcats team coming to town, Kiffin having to go to these lengths to drum up excitement could have him looking for an off-ramp sooner than later. Now, there's always movement in coaching, and the next opportunity could be the best one if you feel hamstrung where you're at. Now, with places like Nebraska already open and Auburn seemingly coming open soon, there are destinations where crowd support isn't something you have to worry about. Now, would Kiffin bolt for a place like Auburn due to a lack of resources or advantages or home atmosphere? It's possible, and the more time he sits back at home games and doesn't have to yell to communicate, it becomes more probable. Now, Ole Miss never loses a party, but if they don't take that party inside the stadium, they may lose their coach. And a coach leaving an SEC team outside of Vanderbilt because the fans won't do their part is a black eye that's not so easily covered up. I'm going to bring in my co-host, former Michigan quarterback David Cohn, Blade Crane, former Western Colorado wide receiver. And guys, Lane has a good time at these press conferences. conferences. He pokes fun at people. We've seen him troll on social media. But if you just go and listen to him and watch him and you followed Lane Kiffin enough, it looks like he is fed up with the atmospheres that he's getting. Now, has Ole Miss played the best home schedules there are of all time while he's been there? No. But you're relevant. You're relevant. You look at where Ole Miss is, you're undefeated. People are talking about you. With Lane there, they're always going to talk about you. But for him to have to come out and basically pull teeth to let Ole Miss fans know that the game day atmosphere isn't where he wants it tells a lot to me, Conan. And you know, I've been in the crowd or the side of Lane's been the Raiders head coach. He's been at USC. He's been at these big brand names. Maybe a place like Ole Miss where you win 8, 9 games consistently, you're a hero forever, and maybe the pressure isn't as much. I was in the camp of, you know, maybe he kind of likes that. Maybe that's kind of his vibe. But after seeing this, you know, maybe he misses Broadway a little bit when it comes to being able to bring recruits in to your house to see the crazy atmosphere and not having to sell them on the atmosphere because they can see it. I could sense some general frustration from Lane.
I know that he's upset, but I'll tell you what, it's not just an Ole Miss problem. Okay, you're seeing it elsewhere around the country. And you know, when you talk about their non-conference schedule, I know that they play in the SEC West. I know the schedule is back heavy, but to me, you can't play Troy and Central Arkansas and Georgia Tech and Tulsa as your first 4 games and expect the stadium to be full, especially throughout the game. A lot of what he was talking about in the second half. But I'll make this point too. College football attendance writ large has been in decline for the 7th straight season, the lowest since 1981. And even when we were talking about the other day, like the upper bowl of the student section of the Big House is empty, like when we were talking about Michigan's non-conference schedule. And so while big games like Texas and Alabama was certainly packed out the other day, and you're going to have these moments where the stadiums are completely full. I think that what people can sit at home and watch the game on TV and see every single angle and see slow motion, and they can be with their families. Fewer and fewer people are going to the game. So I know that Lane Kiffin's upset. I think if you're an Ole Miss fan, this is the best time to support your university. But I don't know. There's only a handful of places I think he could go where it would be a lot better every single week.
Yeah, you know, and I get attendance is down. With the advances we have in technology, and now you have people that are cutting cable and all these services that can give you about as close to a game day atmosphere as possible in your living room. It's just how bad do you want it, though? Like to me, there are places that Lane Kiffin could go coach, even if it is 7 to 10, which I think there's probably more out there, where you are going to get the atmospheres you have to be able to recruit at the level you need to be able to recruit at to be elite.
Well, let's name them real quick. Let's name a couple.
Auburn, Alabama.
Well, he's not. Well, okay, but I'm saying not that he could go to, not to just have better atmosphere. He's not going
Nebraska.
He's not going
Auburn.
Well, he's not going to Alabama, right? I mean, Nick Saban.
No, I don't think.
Tennessee's one, I think, right? Tennessee. He can't go back to Tennessee.
No, yeah. I thought you were talking about naming in general, but ones that.
No. I'm talking about him specifically.
Okay,
Where
all right.
He go?
All right, Nebraska.
Okay.
All right, Auburn. When it opens up. I mean, you look around the rest of the country, if there's any movement, maybe in another Pac-12 school and a big one. I don't think DeBoer is going to leave Washington anytime soon, or Dan Lanning's leaving Oregon. But when there's some movement out for a Pac-12 school, one of the, definitely not UCLA. I mean, they get basically 12 people out there. But more Big Ten-ish. I mean, Ryan Day, I don't see leaving Ohio State unless it's for the NFL, which if Eberflus doesn't work out for the Bears, I got a weird feeling Ryan Day is going to end up being the head coach of the Bears. I just think he's a guy that's going to make that transition. I mean, if Dabo were to go to Alabama, Clemson would be a spot.
That could be interesting because that's a school that would probably touch him, right? And a job that he might be interested in taking, and that would probably sell out more games than Ole Miss. But that was my point: is like, how many of those schools, which there's already only so few, how many of them are going to take a chance on Lane Kiffin, given like his history and that he hasn't already been to or coach? He's already been to Tennessee. He's already been to Southern Cal.
Well, yeah, but all it takes is one. That's the thing. Because I'm speaking more of it from a Ole Miss relevant standpoint, right? When has Ole Miss really been relevant? What Hugh Freeze was doing when he was rolling with them, obviously you get the problems with Laramie Tunsil and all those other guys. But to me, it's hard to sit there and complain about a guy not winning if it were to go off course or something like that, but you're not showing up in the stadium. I mean, right now is probably the best time to be an Ole Miss football fan outside of 1 year with Eli Manning and, the Hugh Freeze regime.
I think you're right.
But I don't think Lane would. You don't come out, Blaine, and say that, because this can be used negatively in recruiting for you. You can have somebody go sit in the living room and be like, oh, well, you're deciding between us and Ole Miss. Well, at least our head coach doesn't think our home atmosphere is like a high school game. Oh, you think I'm just negative recruiting you? Here, don't take my word for it. Here's what Lane actually said. So for him to come out and say that, it's somewhat risky. It does matter, and obviously it was bothering him.
Well, I think like Lane's got to the point where in his career where everything's calculated. So one of these head coaches, mostly everything they do is calculated. So you can guarantee one thing is that game Saturday is going to be absolutely
it is, but did you risk too much for one game?
Somewhat, yeah. And I think Lane, I mean, this is the thing. Ole Miss will always have athletes. They'll always have, I mean, a good tailgate atmosphere. But, I mean, most of these kids care about where they're getting their Patagonia jacket more than going to the football games. I mean, I've been to plenty of Ole Miss games. Most of these
probably from Patagonia.
Most of the guys are. I mean, I'm not trying to sit here and be kind of an ass, but most of the guys are preppy. You know, it's more about what Friday I am, what we're doing this, what we're doing.
Isn't it like that though at a lot of?
No,
I mean,
no, it's not. It's not at Auburn. It's not like that at LSU. It's not that like that at Mississippi State.
So there's not any preppiness.
I would say more like that. It's more like that at Bama because it's mostly out-of-state people at Bama. But you go around. I mean, it's true. I lived there for 3 years. I mean, it's mostly out-of-staters. Bama takes in more out-of-staters than almost.
Yeah, but those atmospheres are nuts, though.
Yeah, I mean, no, but not about Ole Miss is not nuts.
What is the?
I'm talking about Alabama's.
No, I'm trying to put if there's a school who's somewhat relevant like that, like because Ole Miss is big sorority, big fraternity, and the Bama's like that too. Most of the people who go to these two schools are for the sorority and frat life. That's what they do. Auburn, not that big. LSU, not that big. It's from Mississippi State, not that big. So it's kind of different. I can see Ole Miss saying this, but I still go back to kind of what you said, David. I mean, the first teams you play for the first 4 weeks aren't huge programs, but still, I mean, Auburn was getting drained, 31-10 at halftime, and they're still kids. I mean, out there, they left a little bit more, almost into the fourth quarter. But Lane, for Lane to come out and say this, like it has to matter, and I wouldn't be surprised if this is the early onset of Lane Kiffin getting out of Ole Miss, but it would freak me out because he could have already gotten out on the LSU job. You know, I know they ended up.
We were talking about Florida last year, Miami last year.
He's had the chance to get out, so I don't know why he would wait till now. Because if this is a thing, this isn't a new thing. Right? It has had to have been like this a couple years, which what he said he's been trying on social media. So it's kind of the timing's weird because he's had the chances to get out to better schools with better atmospheres.
Yeah, I just look at, again, even if, because I don't think this is something you look at Lane Kiffin, you know, we talked about the Jeff Collins thing at Georgia Tech. Oh, I didn't want to beat him too bad because I know Jeff's probably getting fired, whatever. Typically when Lane does this, it's for some funny reaction or for us to say, hey, look what Lane Kiffin said or whatever. I can tell when he's serious, and he was serious as a heart attack. And I think this may be the first shot, the first warning shot, that this season, if it doesn't get better, and I do get that opportunity to leave, I might take it. And if I'm an Auburn booster or anybody that has any money at Auburn and I see something like that, maybe, and look, I know the angles, using Jimmy Sexton to leverage Ole Miss to say, you need to treat me better, pay me even more money to do this because the crowns aren't that good. They're always calculated moves, but I legitimately think Lane has felt this way for a while, and it's been building up and building up and building up, and now he just let everybody know. So he put everybody on notice. But what comes with that is, you better not go out there Saturday and lay an egg. We've seen Lane Kiffin do stuff like this before. You remember the Bama game last year?
Yeah.
You better get your popcorn ready.
Popcorn, yeah.
Why? Because y'all got y'all's ass buttered up is what ended up happening there. So, again, if you're going to do things like this, and Lane knows this, you better come out and play good on Saturday. Because if you don't, and the crowd's good, and they do their part, and you don't do yours, that's an egg on the face moment. But maybe Lane, you know, Lane pushes his chips to the table in the middle sometime. But I like him speaking out. Speaking about speaking out, Blaine, what's the Booster Club?
Booster Club, let's go to Brad David, a $4.99.
B-Rad.
Gee, money
we are
coming in.
rich. All right, come.
Money
you
coming
explain
in.
to me what were the reasons that Rich Rod failed at Michigan? Was he set up to fail, or is he just not a good coach?
I heard it was your fault.
I heard you.
I'll take that blame.
Yeah.
I'll take that
Good for
blame.
you.
Rich Rodriguez failed because there was a junior quarterback named David Cohen.
Yeah.
Wasn't good.
Well, you know what? You should have been able to run a more quarterback
Many years
run-oriented
first
offense.
half.
Just throw 4 verts.
I think the system of not only offense but also defensive schemes that Rich Rod wanted to run when he came in were not a great fit for the Big Ten. And I also think that when Coach Rodriguez came in, he thought that he had so much success at West Virginia that he was going to succeed no matter what. He didn't really need to buy into the being a Michigan man and that sort of thing. Look, he wanted offensive linemen to, instead of being 305, to be 285, so we could run the all-out spread. He wanted linebackers who were 245 to get their weight down to 225. Now, I've never been in better shape in my life. We were the most conditioned team in the Big Ten, but we weren't able to go toe-to-toe with some of these teams after, like I said, I keep the playbook right here. This was our day one install when Scott Loeffler was my offensive coordinator. When Rich Rod came in, we were running 4 verticals a game, 20 times a game.
Well, it's like
four verticals down the field 20 times a game. Like, we never called the same play more than once under Coach Carr's system.
Yeah.
So it was just a different fit.
Yeah.
So I understand being an offensive-minded coach and coming there and saying, all right, I want the offensive lineman to cut weight so we can run the spread. What I don't understand is looking around the rest of the conference saying, you know what, our linebackers need to lose weight too. Because again, you shouldn't base your defense off what you're running offensively. That's the part I don't understand with coaches. All right, we want to run spread? Great. Offensive linemen need to cut weight? Okay. We need to recruit a different type of receiver, maybe a different type of quarterback. I can understand that. But what in God's name would have me look at our defense and look around the Big Ten and say, you know what we probably need to do? We need smaller linebackers. We need to be a little less thumperish. We need to be able to run better against all these spread teams we're going to play in the Big Ten. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I don't know why you would go back. I think sometimes when you mix what you're doing offensively in that mindset and then what you're doing defensively, like kind of in the same theme as your offense, I've never understood that.
Things spiraled out of control quickly, and it was unfortunate because, like I said, we won 3 games my junior year. That snapped like a 35-game bowl streak. But I will say a few things. Look, he recruited some good players. Like Denard Robinson came into Michigan because Coach Rodriguez was there and recruited Denard, right? Ended up being, I think, one of the greatest quarterbacks to play at Michigan. And then, you know, for me personally, as many disagreements as I had with Coach Rodriguez and the system, and I knew when that system was implemented that I wasn't going to get to play a lot, I decided to stay. I got to be a captain for the first time there. I got to, I was involved in game planning and things like that from the sideline. So, no hard feelings to Coach Rodriguez, and certainly a lot of members on his staff, like Coach Rod Smith, the quarterback coach. Man, I love Coach Smith. I would do anything for Coach Smith. And even Coach Tony Dews, who was a wide receiver coach there, is the running back coach now for the Titans.
Nice.
We're going to try and get Coach Dews in here pretty soon.
Yeah. That sounds like a good gig.
Yeah.
All right, Derek, here's what we're going to do. You're going to go out there and be an alien, and I'm going to look like a
Yeah.
Derek, just don't get tackled.
Yeah.
All right, Hunter Thorpe, guys, a $49 $99 donations, guys.
We can pay the car payment this month.
Rich, guys. We're an absolute
Thank you, brother.
paid. He says, hey, guys, I thank y'all for bringing me back to sports. And here's a little tip for all y'all do. Very much appreciated. Thank you, Hunter. I appreciate it,
Hunter,
brother.
thank you, buddy. Appreciate it.
That means a lot. I'm going to go ahead and say the poll is Tex-Mex good? That's what the Booster Club wants.
Okay. All right, I respect that.
Okay, let's go to Mike RFF Lifestyle, a true Booster Club OG, hashtag Ask Crane & Company. Do you guys believe in the Shaq theory? By majority, the responsibility is on the players to execute the plays and win the game. How much weight do you put on the coach when losing?
Well, again, anytime you're the head of an organization or the buck stops with you being the head coach, because it always comes back to the head coach. Now, there are reasons why you lose. Sometimes it's offensively, sometimes it's defensively, sometimes it's special teams, sometimes it's a combination of all three. So it does need to fall on the person that is in charge, because at the end of the day, who brings those players in? The coaches do. So when you select the employees and you select how the employees need to act or what they need to do or the culture or development that you want in the business, in your organization, on your team, it ultimately falls on you. But when it comes down to gameplay, I always say that talent overtakes play calling. There's been a lot of base schemes and not as complex schemes that have worked because the players are so good, and there's been some schemes that are really intricate that there's an adjustment for everything. If you know what you're doing, it's about as perfect as you can get, but you look like a fool because the players aren't good enough. So the trick is to combine both of those, right? That's the goal. Get the best players that are the most athletic, that are the smartest, that work the hardest, and mix that with great play calling and great scheme and great game planning and great adjusting and nuance and stuff like that, which is tough to do. But if you had to pick one or you had to lean a certain way, I would much rather have really talented players and a simpler scheme with fewer adjustments than bad players and me have every answer in the world. Because as a coach, I'm not making a tackle. I'm not throwing a pass. I'm not catching a ball, making a block, or rushing the passer. That's your job to do that. It's my job to push you further than you can take yourself, and it's your job to take what I've told you and implement it on the field. Because at the end of the day, I used to tell my guys this all the time, it doesn't matter how much I know. It matters how much I know that I can get you to know. It's like a math teacher. You already know math. Nobody's going in there testing the teacher. The teacher isn't taking the ACT. The student is. So the goal is for the teacher to implement as much of their knowledge into another person for that other person's benefit to do when they're not there. It's that simple.
And I think it matters what level of football we're talking about. Like you're saying talent exceeds or is more important than coaching. That's especially true at the NFL level, right?
Yes.
Like the general manager is
But the margin,
important.
the gap in talent, because you're saying level, not that there's not better players than other players out there, and you always want better players, but the gap in the NFL between talent is smaller than it is from the best college team
and in
to the worst college team.
That's
And
the
in
thing,
coaching.
like, because there's only 32 spots,
Everybody
right?
runs
So
the
give me a great general manager who puts an awesome roster together, and you can pick a bunch of
That's
different
exactly
coaches who
right.
can win with that. On the high school level, give me a great coach any day. Give me a great coach with any random guys who can spend a year getting the weight room right and who can out scheme other coaches because they're young enough to make a lot of mistakes, and you can pick weaknesses in your game planning. The college level is what's so interesting because it's sort of the best of both worlds. The guys are still young enough to make mistakes, but they're developed enough to be able to be difference makers.
Yeah.
And a coach on the college level has to be a coach schematically and the general manager because you're in charge of bringing those guys in. So bringing the players in is only half of the coaching responsibilities at the college level.
Yeah, and in high school, you're kind of, and I know there's recruiting that goes on high school, believe me, I know, but that's what you got.
Yes.
Like where you at is what you got. Like in college, you'd be like, all right, let's offer him a scholarship, let's offer him a scholarship, let's offer him a scholarship. Only about 25% of the high schools in Alabama do the same thing. So the other 75%, you're kind of stuck with what you got. All right,
All right, a couple things here. Let's start with Sister Ridge. She says, but to think about how pricey the tickets are, I don't know what student sections pay, but I certainly can't afford to take my family to a game. It's amazing. Colleges are making more money ever when it comes to football, but ticket prices and tailgating prices still seem to be going up.
Inflation.
Saved by the Clavin says, Ole Miss is great. One of the best tailgating experience I've had. Look, the Grove is awesome. But there has to be something else going on for, I guess, Kiffin to say this.
Yeah, but look, it's one thing if the tailgating atmosphere is awesome. We're talking about inside the stadium. Well, what did Lane say? When I walk out there in the, second half and it looks like a high school game, think about those words. Okay, it wasn't a, hey, guys, let's turn this up a notch. We can get to another level. We're all in this together. He said it looked like a high school game. I mean,
it's not good.
Somebody's pissed off about something. But I don't think this is something where there's something going on in the left hand and he's going to say this. I think it was legitimately about this. I think maybe some recruits were there, or maybe you look, they're up on Tulsa, then the atmosphere kind of dwindles, and then all of a sudden Tulsa comes back. It's one thing for Lane to say this. Now, last year, when you look at, I'll give you an example. Auburn, Mississippi State, right? Raucous atmosphere. Auburn dominates the first half. A lot of people leave in the second half. Mississippi State comes back. The reason Mississippi State came back was not because of the fans. I don't buy into that. You got to go out there and play regardless. But you can also make the assertion and look around and go, man, this atmosphere, we're beating the hell out of this team. What does Saban say? If the players got to be out there to play, you got to be out there to cheer. I think that's I think that's a pretty good moniker.
Yeah.
Especially when you're winning as much as he is.
How is the Ole Miss football experience? I haven't been to a football game there.
Dude, the Grove is phenomenal. The parties are phenomenal. Everything that goes on outside of the stadium is phenomenal. The in-game atmosphere compared to like a South Carolina, not nearly as loud. Mississippi State, I don't think it's nearly as loud.
Really?
Now the cowbells help that out a little bit. They have ornaments that they bring to the game. But Auburn, LSU, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, Tennessee. Ole Miss is a bottom tier in the SEC experience from a energy in the stadium, not outside the stadium. But what's crazy is you go to an Ole Miss baseball game, it's nuts.
Wow.
If they took the same feeling that they have for baseball, I mean, beers flying in the outfield on home runs, and they put that into the football program, it'd be a crazy place. But right now, it's just a mid-atmosphere.
I've been to the Grove. The Grove's great, but I've been to an Ole Miss game. It was Ole Miss Auburn. Both teams were highly ranked. And I mean, it was a great atmosphere. But the thing about it, most SEC teams that do, it's week in, week out.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't matter who you're playing. I mean, Weber State could be coming in here and it'd be packed for 4 quarters. But, I mean, if your head coach, especially Lane Kiffin, has to come out and say this, I mean, it's just not a good look on.
Yeah.
Who was it? Sister Riggs? Did Sister Riggs say the thing about not being able to afford the ticket prices? Was that who it was? Yeah, and that's part that surprises me because the schools are getting so much money from television revenue.
And
it seems like you don't have to jack up.
Well, think about why that.
all of your money from ticket prices. I get it. But
Well, you know, we know that colleges are a business and they're in it to make money at the end of the day. You can hide under the guise of education. And there are some people that really care about people getting educated, but a lot of it comes down to how much money. And there's a reason that TV revenue is so high, because everybody's at the house watching the game on whatever streaming network they're looking at, and you're seeing these deals with Amazon and stuff like that. I think you also, and I know it's been declining for 7 years, but we do have to look at kind of the way the economy is right now too. Like you have to be able to take a snapshot. I mean, you go outside, everything's more expensive. I mean, wages are going down, gas is going up, the price of food is going up, inflation's a real thing, and sports and going to games, when you're having to cut budgets and you're having to sit around at the table once every week and say, all right, this is the amount of money we can spend, this is how much we're losing, the stock market's just absolutely tanked right now. So there's a lot of things that go into it, and if I'm gonna spend, you know, take a family of 4 to go to a football game, well, I'm gonna have to buy concessions that are through the roof. We're gonna have to pay for parking that's through the roof. You're gonna have to pay for tickets. Typically, tickets don't even cost you as much when you look at the periphery of stuff going around. Maybe you have to, you know, concessions, not the concession stand, but merchandise that's around the stadium and getting the money to set up for the tailgate or paying for a tailgate spot. It's a lot of money when it comes down to it, and we're not in a market, in an economy right now that's really conducive to go out to the game.
You're right on that, and I pulled a quote here from SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey where he said, you know, there's plenty of, if you will, negativity around collegiate sports right now. People have said, well, you know, some of these decisions won't affect fan interest. Well, something certainly is, and it's not just TV, it's not just COVID. We have to rethink our approach on key issues.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things.
I would like to see, because you said the last 7 years it's gone down.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to see, you know, kind of where it's gone down the most.
They had a graph here.
Okay,
I won't pull it up now, but it like peaked in 2008.
Get graphic.
Do you think the transfer portal, maybe the NIL, has anything to do with it?
No.
Maybe you kind of cut some fans off with that?
I don't think so. I think it's cultural issues. I think it's inflation, like he's talking about, and mostly I think it's television.
Well, the on-the-field product is as good as it's ever been.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's something that gets lost in translation. We talk about these seismic shifts off the field, NIL, transfer portal, this coach going here, conference realignment, whatever. At the end of the day, the on-the-field product is as good as it's ever been. They're bigger, faster, stronger. The schemes are better, which means they're smarter. So I don't buy into the stuff off the field with NIL like that. I think it's more of an actual, this is how much money we can spend. We don't have money to go spend on the game. And we just cut cable, and I've got all 13 of these apps
and
that I can watch the game
that far removed from a global pandemic.
That is true.
You know, there
That's
are some
very
older
true.
people who would be going to more games, I think, but they just haven't felt comfortable.
You just mix it all together.
All of it together makes some of the top tier of the student sections empty.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. But let's get into keys to victory for tonight.
Let's do it.
Bengals, Dolphins.
I see whites.
I see whites. Can't wait to see them. The Siberian Tigers, girl, stop. I want to start with Cincinnati. And you know, something that we've talked about, and it's the truth. Cincinnati's offensive line isn't great. And Joe Burrow's gotten hit a lot this year, but if you really dig down into it, I think Joe Burrow is holding the ball longer than most quarterbacks in the NFL. I think I saw a stat that they've given him the 6th most time out of any quarterback in the NFL. He's got to start getting rid of the ball. And if you watch Joe Burrow, it doesn't make, sometimes guys get beat, but guys get beat up front all the time. It happens. Joe Burrow's got to start getting rid of the ball. You know, we look at Joe Mixon. I know he hadn't scored a touchdown, stuff like this, but even checking it down quicker, getting it out, getting him easier throws. Because it's not like you got one guy. It's not like it's just like, all right, it's Jamar Chase, nobody else can play. You've got T. Higgins. I know he's gone out with concussion and stuff like this past couple weeks. He should be good to go tonight. You have Tyler Boyd. You have Hayden Hurst. You have guys that are weapons on the outside, and the run game's pretty good with Joe Mixon. Now, he's got to find his way in the end zone. I don't think it'd be a bad bet to take him as the first touchdown scorer tonight at plus 600. But Joe's got it. Two things can be true at once. We say this on the show all the time. The Bengals can have an okay and average offensive line. But Joe Burrow also needs to get the ball out of his hands more.
Yes.
I think that's a big key for the Bengals. Then in Miami, how healthy is Tua? Because the numbers Tua's putting up right now, if you look, compared to not only other quarterbacks in the league, but himself, he's on pace to have a hell of a year. But what's always the question with Tua? Health. And you can say what you want about his back, and you can say what you want about his ankle. He got knocked out last game. You watched the way he acted after he got hit and his head slammed and he hit the back of his head, and you watch that arm bend. If you ever watch somebody get hit and their arms go up like this, and it looks weird, almost like they're about to grab their face, but they're not, or they're holding onto a steering wheel, but they're not, or one arm does it, they're knocked out. That's one of the easy ways to tell. He got up and crumbled, not because of his back, not because of his ankle, because he was literally knocked out, and he came back in that game.
I think we have that clip.
Yeah, and we have that clip we need to dig up. But I know a concussion when I've seen. Watch this. Tell me if this is normal for a back or an ankle. And like Bill Belichick said, I'm not a doctor, but I wasn't born last night either. Let's go ahead and play the clip.
And Tagovailoa suffered some type of an injury.
Watch his back of his head, right? Bang, right there. Look at his arms go up. Did you see him? Now watch this. You're woozy. He's moving. You're knocked out. You're knocked out.
Awful sight to see. They will take him to the sideline.
He came back after halftime. Yeah. Look at him. They're not looking at his ankle.
No, because he would grab it.
Yeah, they're not looking at his ankle or his back.
He still came back out and played.
No, Tua's got that dog in him. Tua's not soft, but he gets hurt a lot. He's not a big guy, and he's willing to stand in there and take a hit, and he's willing to move around and put his body in harm's way. So the question is, how healthy is Tua? Let's look at these numbers. All right, through where we're at right now in the season, okay, and they're one of two undefeated teams, he's got a 71% completion rate. That's elite. Wow. That's elite. That's completing 7 out of 10 passes. That's me lining up and getting after you. He's got 8 touchdowns so far, which is already half his whole total for last year. So he's already halfway to the whole total touchdown amount he had last year. And he's got 925 passing yards. He's 75 away from 1,000. Second to Josh Allen, who they just beat in Miami. So right now, a healthy Tua, because Tyreek and Jalen Waddle don't go with Teddy Bridgewater. I don't care what anybody says. Teddy Bridgewater isn't good enough to be able to maximize the potential of Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Mike Skedaddle Gesicki. All right, you get Tua in there, and we talk about the vertical game. Does Tua struggle with arm strength? Well, I'm telling you right now, what Mike McDaniel and those guys got going on in the intermediate and short passing game and the run game. Chase Edmonds has 2 touchdowns last year. That's been a big supplement, but it all goes through Tua because Tua's making what? Great decisions with the ball. Teddy Two Gloves, I don't trust it.
Well, he's a backup quarterback for a reason. I mean, but I feel like really anybody could go in there and have somewhat of success. I mean, you got Waddle. I mean,
anybody can just go in there
and have somewhat success. I mean, for sure, if a quarterback in the league, if you're a starter or somewhat of a backup, any starter could go in there and have. Now, I'm not saying put up 2 in numbers, but go in there and have success. I mean, Kirk Cousins can go in there and have success. Let's be honest. Am I wrong?
Kirk Cousins
is
tied
quarterback.
Is tied for like the NFL lead in touchdown.
Don't play on Monday night.
The thing that gets me about the 2 situations, one, the only thing I hear about is player safety, player safety, player safety, player safety. What's the concussion protocol? Is it, hey, are you concussed?
Yeah, what do you got to hit him with a baseball bat?
Cool. All right, get back out there. That wasn't a back injury, all right? If you know anything about football, and I've played football, seen football, coached football, you know that was a concussion. 100%. Sometimes you have to tell the player to get out of his own ways, like, hey, man, you're concussed, you have a long career. And Tua's had a history of having detrimental injuries.
Yeah.
Not spraining ankles.
Yeah.
You're not tweaking backs.
It's like him and Carson Wentz.
Yeah, my hips dislocated. Both of my feet are broken.
Yeah.
Like, that's the type of thing.
I broke the top of my body.
But I really think one of my keys to this game is you got to get Joe Mixon involved. He has 160-yard rushing through 3 weeks, no touchdowns. I mean, this is a top 10 back, maybe a top 7 back. You have the guy as a receiver. And another point of what you said, Joe Burrow's had his eyes down a lot so far this year.
I don't blame him.
He keeps getting hit. He keeps getting hit. He's so accustomed. Joe Burrow's clock has to be so messed up in his head just from getting tagged every play.
Schizophrenic
not knowing when it's coming. It's like split. Like, who knows who Joe Burrow is going to be today when he shows up to the field because he doesn't know where it's coming from, right? And that, as a quarterback, that's
part of that's on him, though.
That's true, but I would say more of it's on the offensive line.
Sure.
And as a quarterback, that has to be so frustrating. But this game's one thing I won't do is pick against any team who's wearing the icy whites, especially on a Thursday night. So this spread came out. I don't think it was Bengals -3.5, which is
I don't like that number.
Which is a spread I understand because I want to see how this Dolphins secondary really adjusts to because this is one of the best receiving cores.
Well, Xavier Howard's out, you got a lot of
your best DBs.
Your best DBs. You have a couple safeties that are banged up as well. That's why a lot of people are tailing the Bengals here. I don't like the 3.5 number, especially when I just don't like it in general. I would buy it down to 2.5 if I was going to take the Bengals money line, which I'm not taking a money line tonight. I got some other bets. I got trying to make up some units, like the apartments just caught fire, and I
want to go back to the Tua situation real quick. So, are you saying that the medical staff and the Dolphins should have kept him out of the game? He shouldn't have come back in the ball game.
Yes.
Okay.
Because I don't know exactly what goes through on a concussion protocol. I don't know questions or exactly what they do. But you don't have to sit here and tell me that you didn't have concussion because I saw it. If you're a medical professional, Dave, and you saw that, would you think that's a back injury?
No. And I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you. I just find it surprising because you're saying that we should pull Tua out of the game because long-term health of a concussion, but you're pro steroids in baseball because you want to see as many home runs. But
care about that.
I'm just trying to figure you out.
I mean, what's the science behind?
I'm trying to figure you out.
Can steroids not somewhat? I mean, have we not figured out how to not make it healthy, but make it where players can be okay to
like a limitless?
Not figured out how to make steroids
figures out.
I mean, what's more dangerous, concussions or steroids?
But what if I use the same argument and I was like, look, forget the long-term health. You got to come back in. People want to see the long ball. People want to see Tyree catch a touchdown.
I'm not sitting here preaching player safety. I'm not preaching. They are. That's what matters the most.
Well, my thing is, you have somebody that goes to these NFL games that its job is to look on the field and be like, "Hey, buzz down there, this dude's knocked out. Like, you need to take him out." Like, I'd be pressing the button like this, like it's to like to stop the nukes from getting launched. Be like, Tua's got a concussion. You can't let him back in the game. But look, Tua's a tough guy. At the end of the day, players are always going to want to play. I do want to show this play from the Dolphins game real quick. I don't want to jump around too much. But we've had the butt fumble. Mark Sanchez, we know. In France, they called it le fumble des bouts. So now we have with the Dolphins the butt punt. And it almost cost them the game. You want to talk about being sick? If you had the Dolphins money line, so they're up 4. They're an underdog at home against the Bills. It's been a crazy game back and forth. There's a minute 37 seconds to go. Nobody has a timeout left. All you have to do, you're backed up, you're punting. You've got to one-step it and get this ball off. What you never can do at the PP position, which is the personal protector, which is the guy this hits off of, is you never back up. You never, ever, just like in the shield, when you see those shield punt teams, you never back up because the punter's what? Going forward. This is why you don't back up. I give to you, ladies and gentlemen, not live for Miami. This was recorded last weekend, but I give you the butt punt.
The safety, then it gives you some room to kick. They're out of timeouts, but then a field goal beats you. I don't know. This is risky.
You backed right into it, dog.
Not just backed up. You went back into it.
You did exactly the one thing you could. I would rather you have just ran down the field at the snap. I would rather you just run down the field at the snap.
I'd rather you just turn around and block it. If you're going to do that, just at least make it look cool. Turn around and block it. And the thing about this, I had a lot of buddies who had the Dolphins -2.5.
Really?
Ooh.
I would have, conspiracy. At that point, I'm screaming conspiracy. But even if you had the Dolphins money line, which I'm sure more people had the Dolphins money line, they probably had 2.5. Now, so you were up by 4, you get a safety. Now you got to kick it off to Josh Allen and the Bills offense up 2. So a field goal beats you. Now you held on to win because Josh Allen and them couldn't get lined up, and Ken Dorsey, tried to create a time warp in the press box.
Don't rely on that every weekend.
You can't rely on that. The Dolphins. Woo. But in the fourth quarter, look, the Dolphins have been coming through in the fourth.
Yeah,
you look at them come back, what they did against the Ravens and things like that. We'll get to the Boost Club in a second. Let's go ahead and get to these power rankings.
Let's do it.
All right, so we're going to do our NFL power rankings. We'll do our college ones tomorrow. Let's go ahead and throw this graphic up here. Because, look, there's some good discussion when it comes down to, and I know it's early, and guys, power rankings are a snapshot in time. These can change. I know there's injuries. We're having a little trouble with the graphics, so I'm just going to go over them right here. I got them on the piece of paper. We got the Bills, #1.
Yeah.
I know they lost at Miami, okay? I don't want to make excuses. Oh, it was hot. It was hot for Miami too, but I still think with Josh Allen, with the weapons that they have, with Diggs, with their ability to run the ball, over the course of time, I think the Bills are still the best team in the NFL, and you guys agree with that?
I do agree with that.
Yeah, I do. They have lost some defensive keys and got some players that they're going to need for a while. So one of their best secondary guys is out for the year. But I still believe in Josh Allen. I still believe in Stephon Diggs. They're only going to get better. And you can see that heat really hurt. Miami's accustomed to playing that heat, but Buffalo Bills players are not. They were dying by the second quarter. Stephon Diggs was cramping in the second quarter of that game.
I know, but to me, it's on the NFL player to be in shape. Like
Well, no, I'm not saying they're not in shape, but you have to play in that heat to be accustomed to that heat.
Yeah,
especially at Miami. It was 98
I agree there, but you have players too, and I know that again they're up in Buffalo now, but every player that plays for Buffalo isn't from Buffalo. I mean, you've got guys that have played in heat before. You know what to expect, especially the veterans. So I get. Maybe your depth was a little bit low, but you had guys cramp. Josh Allen looked absolutely gassed after that game, more than I've ever seen.
But I think it had more to do with the injuries they had. Plus, look, it's hard to win on the road. It's hard to beat anyone on the road in the NFL. It's especially hard to beat a good team. And it's time for us to admit that this Dolphins team is a good team. The Bills were banged up. The snafus they had towards the end of the game are not only fixable, I don't expect those to happen again anyway from a Josh-led team. And, hopefully there won't be any more tablets broken up in the press box with Ken Dorsey. But I'm still bullish on the Bills.
It's tablet breaking season, man.
Him and Tom Brady are just seeing who can break the most tablets.
I wonder what the over-under was for the year on tablets getting broken.
Oh, there's a prop bet on that.
Somewhere.
You bet somewhere.
There's some degenerate. Sure. There's some degenerate to bet on that. All right, 2. One of the biggest surprises in the NFL, the Eagles, undefeated.
Eagles.
Jalen Hurts, you talk about looking balanced on offense. The Eagles are able to affect you in every level of the defense. They're able to, Jalen Hurts is such a threat to run the ball. You're seeing it create more separation. Devontae Smith ever not having a catch week 1. You're seeing those weapons really come to fruition. And the Eagles, as far as offense, defense, and special teams, you can make a case they're the best team in the NFL right
Balanced.
Yes.
Balanced. And not only with all 3 phases of the game, but within those phases, balanced then too. The way that they're using Jalen Hurts is the best way to use him to have success. They're using the RPO game. They're using his legs. He's finally throwing the ball to Devontae Smith too, and not just A.J. Brown. So that's great for you, Blaine.
Well, I mean, you look at this team, and one of the best teams up front on both sides of the ball. One of the best offensive line.
That defense.
Fletcher Cox, Jordan Davis,
Brandon Graham, BG.
I mean, they got guys on that team. You have one of the best corners in the league, and Slade Jr. So they're one of, if not the most complete team in the NFL.
All right, so number 3, we're going to go ahead with the Dolphins. I mean, you look at the weapons on offense, you look at the way they're finishing. I know defensively there's still some questions. I know they're still beat up, but you do have guys like Xavier Howard, who I know is not going to play tonight, but are very talented, that can win you a game late. You need to shut somebody down. They can do it. The pass rush needs to continue to improve. But Miami, when you look, yes, they're one of 2 undefeated teams. You really have to put them up here. But a healthy Tua with those weapons, Waddle and Tyreek Hill playing off each other, with Gesicki, with the way they're operating, they look comfortable out on the field. And I think especially early in the season, the teams that are the most comfortable are the teams where it's easier to adjust as you're going on because you've already found what works. So I think the Dolphins are here to stay.
All right, no, I agree with you. Blaine, you big on them right now?
Yeah, I am. I mean, I don't know how you can't be. I mean, and if you go back and look at that Buffalo Bills game, just the kind of the team stats of that game, I mean, how Miami won this game is insane. I mean, Josh Allen had over 400 yards. I mean, total yards. Miami's had 212 total yards in this game. Time of possession, the Buffalo Bills had 40 minutes. The Miami Dolphins had 19. Yeah. So, I mean, great teams can do what? Win in multiple ways.
Bend but don't break.
And that's one thing I have to say about Miami's defense. I mean, you gave up 21 points. You gave up a lot of yards, a lot of plays, but you bend and didn't break. And you have the offensive players, especially a quarterback and receiver and tight end, to take you far in the playoffs. But the teams with great offenses and defense that can turn you over and bend but don't break can make that run, especially in the playoffs. We kind of saw that with the Bengals team last year.
Yeah, let me ask you this, because I've been thinking this with the Dolphins. First-year head coach Mike McDaniel and offensive guys. Sometimes we've seen offensive coaches take head coaching jobs and they have a lot of success early, right? We're thinking like Sean McVay early on, putting up huge numbers, Kyle Shanahan, guys like that. Is this a situation where other teams will start to figure out Mike McDaniel and the Dolphins, or do they just have so many weapons that they're going to have success?
I think the answer is somewhere in the middle. The key for any coach is, what's the saying we always say? If you're not evolving, you're dissolving. So Mike McDaniel's a new head coach. The book's not really out on him yet. So teams are getting that. Once you get into week 3, week 4, you get that self-scout. You understand kind of who you are, and then you can adjust because you know what other teams are looking at. You're going to see what you do mainly out of this personnel. What do you do out of this formation? So I think Mike McDaniel is malleable enough, even as a young head coach, to understand that he has to keep adjusting. And he's kind of letting the offense do what the offense does. You know, he's a defensive guy at heart. So when I look at the Dolphins, it's not just adjusting offensively, it's adjusting defensively. I think he'll win the self-scout. And when you have weapons like that and you're even, it's so much easier to adjust because they can't make you dribble with your left if you don't have a left. That's why that run game is so important for the Dolphins. If they continue to be effective running the ball, they don't have to be the best team in the NFL running the ball. Tua isn't a great runner, but he's good enough to scare you when he gets out in the open field. He can give you that 3rd and 6 and take off. But with Chase Edmonds and the guys that they have, if they can continue to just be somewhat effective in the run game, it opens up the screen game, it opens up the play action game, the intermediate game, and the short game, and you're able to adjust with Tyreek Hill and Waddle on each side, and a guy protecting the seam in Mike Gesicki, which in the red zone, when you're able to widen out Tyreek and Jalen, that's a way for you to attack, get that matchup tied in on a linebacker. So, all right, 5 through 8 here is very interchangeable. Or excuse me, 4 through 8. The Chiefs, I think they're going to be fine. It was a tough loss against the Colts. I like that new offensive line. To me, they kind of slept walk in there, and Matt Ryan and them were able to steal one late. But we got the Ravens at 4 with the way they're operating. Lamar Jackson's playing as good as I've ever seen him right now.
Yes.
He is making throws that should scare opponents to death. Not that he hadn't made good throws before, but the consistency of his throws. I mean, him putting the ball in the one spot it has to be down the field, not just short, not just on the slant, not just on the dig, not just on the hitch, not just on the out going from hash to hash. In the red zone, he's making throws and putting it on a dot, whether it's back shoulder, whether it's putting it up and out where only his guy can go get it on important downs. And look, the Ravens are finding ways. I know they found a way to lose one against the Dolphins in the 4th, but when you look at the way they bounce back, and the Ravens are always the best when the tight ends are cooking. And buddy, the tight ends are cooking in Baltimore.
Lamar Jackson is the Aaron Judge of the NFL. It's contract year, and they're both balling.
That's exactly right.
Now, while it is weird to see a Ravens defense give up 42 points to the Dolphins, I think we just have to chalk that up to what we were saying before.
Yeah.
How many weapons the Dolphins do have. They put everything together. Not a great collapse there in the second half from the Ravens, but beat the Jets, you beat the Patriots. I think the schedule is favorable moving forward. I think the Ravens could be a Super Bowl contender for sure.
Anytime you got Lamar and a defense that's any halfway decent, I think you got a shot. All right, so we got the Chiefs 5, the Rams 6, and the Packers 7. Like I said, I think the Chiefs will end up being fine. Anytime you got Patrick Mahomes, who's a witch of the highest order. The question for me, the Rams at 6, I think you got to put them there. You still got Aaron Donald. You still got Matt Stafford. You still got Cooper Kupp. But the Packers, to me, are the outlier in this thing. How good? To me, the Packers will be as good as Alan Lazard is. The Packers will be as good as Randall Cobb is. The Packers will be as good as Robert Tonyan is. Aaron Jones out of the backfield, I got him on my fantasy team. Him and A.J. Dillon, it's a great 1-2 punch. We know Aaron Rodgers is unbelievable. How good can the Packers be? Really, the question, Blaine, is can the Packers' offense be explosive enough? I think the defense is going to be about how the Packers' defense has been.
I don't know. I just don't know how far Aaron Rodgers can take this team. I mean, how much can you do? Is 7 the ceiling for these guys? I think it might be. But the thing with me is that 8 team right there, the Tampa Bay Bucks.
Just beat up right now.
Just beat up. Well, first of all, the defense is playing phenomenal. Right, they're playing extremely well, and they haven't had Mike Evans, they haven't had Chris Godwin. I mean, they haven't had their impact guys.
Their offensive line's
their offensive line. You lose 2 guys early in this offensive line. If Tampa Bay can get healthy, right, they can get the impact guys back at receiver. If Leonard Fournette can still keep being Leonard Fournette, if that defense can play that way, you still got Tom Brady at the helm of this team.
Yeah.
Right? They can be a legitimate top 5 team and compete with any of these teams you see 1 through 4 because they got the guys and they got the captain of the steering the ship. So if the Tampa Bay Bucks get healthy, they will be as dangerous as anybody in the NFL.
Yeah, and Mike Evans coming back off suspension. Obviously, he's not hurt. Getting him back is huge. Tampa Bay, to me, just has to survive until they're healthy again.
Okay.
You got to give yourself a chance to get in, and then you let Tom do his thing.
Because it's different than the Packers, right? We're talking about, you're getting weapons back. With the Packers, you are who you are. With the Packers, I still don't know how great the Packers can be, but listen to this next 4-game stretch. Patriots at home. Giants at home.
Win.
Jets at home. And then you go to the Commanders. All of those are winnable.
Those are very winnable. All 4 of those are gettable.
You know, and then you go to the Bills and you go to the Lions back to back. So it kind of starts then, but you're already 2-1 with 4 winnable games in a row. You have to be excited if you're a Packers fan right now, given the lack of weapons you're looking at on the field.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the NFC North too, I mean, you got the Vikings there. You know who they are with Justin Jefferson at the end. The Lions we've talked about are respectable. The Bears are 2-1, but we know who the Bears are. I mean, Justin Fields having to run around and just hope to be able to get through those games, even though I do like Eberflus, the new head coach they got there. I like him a lot more than Nagy. All right, the Vikings at 9, and the Jacksonville Jaguars are a top 10 team in the NFL. I can't believe those words are coming out of my mouth in that order. Trevor Lawrence with ETN and James Robinson's a hell of a 1-2 combo at running back as well. You're seeing that the receiving core kind of blossom a little bit. Christian Kirk looks like a great signing. You're seeing what they're able to do, and Trevor Lawrence, one of the best quarterbacks throwing on the run, and it's looking like the game is slowing down for him. But what I'm most excited about the Jaguars is that defense, the young players they got on that defense. Trayvon Walker, Devin Lloyd, like we talked about the other day. This team, and I know when you have that many top picks, eventually you got to figure it out, right? You would think. We've seen teams go on stretches where they can't, especially up front signing guys. I won't name any teams off the rip here, but I think the Jaguars are here to stay. I don't think this is a fluke first 3 games. I think this is a legit team.
Well, you just went and shocked the world by not only winning at the Chargers with that defense, and I know that they were banged up as well, but you won 38-10. You dominated. Now we're really going to find out because you go to the Eagles. Now, if the Jaguars are able to beat the Chargers and the Eagles back-to-back, like, what are we really talking about here?
Well, we could, again, the price keeps going up every week. The people say, oh, the Chargers were beat up, and they were. I mean, Justin Herbert was beat up. You don't have Keenan Allen. Bosa went down. Rashawn Slater, your starting tackle, went down. You lost him for the year. So it was a tough day for the Chargers. But you do have to give the Jaguars credit. Not only did they win, they beat them to sleep from the jump. They jumped them the minute they got off the bus to the minute they got back on the bus, and if they got off again, they'd have beat them up again. That was just the way that game went. The Chargers better figure it out. You don't see the Chargers in this top 10 list. I don't think you can put them there right now. They need to get healthy.
If you're going to do it now, you got to do it early with Herbert. You can't keep throwing in the messed up ribs, and it's going to keep lasting throughout the season. But the thing with Jacksonville Jaguars is you're controlling the game up front on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
Your offensive line is
dictating the pace
right now, and that has a lot to do with Coach Peterson moving the pocket with Trevor Lawrence. You see Marvin Jones Jr. coming along, a receiver. Christian Kirk, that ended up being a great signing. You have 2 stable of backs. You have your defense. It's Walker looking phenomenal. Josh Allen, one of the best players in the NFL defensively, leading your team in sacks. You have good secondary guys. I mean, Jacksonville Jaguars are slowly looking like one of the most complete teams in the NFL. And the thing about it is they're young. Right? These are young cats out there playing, so they're only going to get better and better. So this Jacksonville Jaguars team, in a couple of years, could be a legitimate problem in the NFL, and I want to see it, man.
Doug Peterson was such a good hire.
It was.
Team,
you know,
because
fit.
Now you see like Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne coming into their own, right? Getting into year 2 and year 3, and former Super Bowl champion. Like the stakes were low after everything that happened with Urban Meyer. It was a great time and job for him, and it was a great pickup for the team.
Yeah. Well, we always talk about what do young people really want deep down? They want structure. Right, they want stability. And after you have Trevor Lawrence and these young guys that were with Urban Meyer and that instability and the craziness, not flying back with the team, you bring in Doug Peterson and you get stability. Well, stability leads to consistency. Consistency leads to growth. And I think that's what you're seeing with the Jaguars, a young team that continues to grow. And Blaine, I think they could be a problem this year. They're good enough. They're talented enough where they keep getting confidence. You're going to see them continue to grow. Let's get a couple from the Booster Club, and I'm going to hit rapid fire real quick, Dave, before we bring Matt in.
Let's go to Ethan Williams. What's up, Ethan? He says, do you think the Jags would look similar if Urban was still there but without any of the scandal?
No, but I mean, that's a hypothetical that doesn't exist. I mean, in theory, I guess, yes, because you have the same players, but the way Doug Peterson's handled it, I think he's kind of the anti-Urban Meyer, which has allowed these guys to grow. So that's an impossible question to answer. Urban's a good enough coach to find guys that know what they're doing schematically. He knows what he's doing schematically, but with all the stuff off the field, that's kind of what you get with Urban Meyer, at least to this point. So hypothetically, yes, but I feel like that's a question that's almost impossible to answer.
All right, Mike RFF Lifestyle says, are there NFL week rankings, like the worst team, like the weakest team?
The bottom?
The bottom
We can
feeder.
put that
Yeah,
together.
we could
Whatever
do a
y'all
bottom
want.
5.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could do a bottom 5. I mean, you got to look, if you got teams that are the best, you got teams that are the worst. So, you know.
Yeah, let's go to Ride High. It says Miami's going to flop later in the season. I don't know. I think they're too talented.
I think they've got staying power. Now, again, it's not just offensively. We got to see what they do defensively, but I think they have staying power. Just got to stay healthy. But speaking about staying healthy, rapid fire keeps me healthy.
All right, hold on. Let me hit a button because I have one for that.
Yes.
Major League Baseball is discussing plans to move the Mets-Braves series with Hurricane Ian looming. That's significant here down the stretch for the NL East.
Yeah, see, what I don't understand about the story is they're like, all right, we're thinking about what we can do for this Braves-Mets series here at the end, or game here at the end, because it's huge. The Mets think they're a half game up after winning last night. The Braves blew it against the Nationals. Don't want to talk about it. But they're like, all right, we're not going to move the game up earlier, so they're not going to play the game today, because today both teams have the day off. And then we're not going to relocate the game. That they said they weren't considering those two things. What else is there to do other than that? Or is there another option? Like, do we get into a time warp or a portal and play it like 2 years from now, but count it today? What else is there to do other than moving the game up, moving the game back, or relocating the game? Is there another option I don't know about?
They both have they have a mutual day off Thursday.
Today, yeah.
Major League Baseball is not considering starting the series a day early, obviously, because that's today. No other info right now.
Again, they said they're probably not going to relocate the game either. I'm confused.
Yeah, me too. I don't.
Please, in the comments, tell me what other option is there?
What's going on? I don't know what the options A, B, C, or DR, but let's just figure out and play the game. I want to see this series.
Yeah.
It's got to get
We
played.
got to get this series, man.
I'm trying to see
gotta
the
get
series.
played.
Yankees already clinched. Like, I'm
Also, thinking of everyone down there who was
Yeah,
affected
prayer.
by the
Yes,
hurricane.
yes.
My parents are in South Georgia. We have to deal with this stuff quite often. But
The storm surge on that thing was nuts.
yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah, so thinking about everybody down there. Let's stay on Major League Baseball. The Cardinals clinched the NL Central. Seasoned team, old team before we get into the playoffs here. Look, you can never count the Cardinals out.
Trying to get those vets another ring, man.
Yeah.
Trying to get him one more. Wainwright, who, is the Gandalf of Major League Baseball. I feel like he's been there for 1,000 years. I mean, you look at Pujols,
Yeah.
hitting 700. Give it one more go around. Yadier Molina, one of my favorite guys.
Yeah.
In the bigs. And then Nolan Arenado at third.
Best third baseman in the league.
My favorite
You
baseball
think
player.
so?
Oh,
My favorite baseball player.
hands down, man. If there's anybody I like watching field ground ball,
Oh, it's Nolan.
it's Nolan. I don't think I've ever seen him make a mistake. Man, I like this Cardinals team, man. It's a bunch of old heads.
Mhm.
I mean, so they're going to be a problem. I guarantee Paul Goldschmidt at
Moment
some
won't be
point's gonna
too
hit
big.
a home run in every game because he just does that. Don't bet the first inning.
Don't do the nerfy.
Don't nerfy
Yes.
with
Don't
the
nerfy the
'cause
Cardinals.
Paul Goldschmidt would go
Anything
out of
but
his way
nerfy.
to hit a home run. But I feel like the Cardinals could be one of these teams that could sneak up on people
I think
this
so.
year.
I think so
Yeah.
for sure. All right, Zach Wilson.
Here we
been
go.
Cleared to play against
we
the
go.
Steelers, boys.
Here we go.
Look
Look,
at
the
him.
Joe Flacco
Look at
experiment.
him.
You somehow got a dub.
Hide your
Thanks to
moms.
the Browns falling apart. Yeah, you bet. This dude's dropping bombs on your moms.
Yeah.
Well, like you said, Blaine, the Cougar Hunter. Sometimes you got to ride with the fear.
Yeah, I mean, he learned. He learned at a young age how to ride with the fear. There's a cougar in the car.
There's a
All
Cougar
right,
in the
that's
car.
what. But I mean, I just want to see how he's moving around. All right, I want to see how he's moving around. He's got the pieces now. Wilson, the receiver he drafted,
Elijah
looks
Moore.
phenomenal. I mean, the
Brees Hall.
Brees Hall looks great. The rookie running back. So the Jets get. I want to see. I think Joey Flax did a good job, about as good as a job you expect from Joey Flax. But I'm ready to see this kid come in here and play some good football. I'm glad he's healthy, and I'm glad he's having fun.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations. Your first game, you go to the Steelers. First
Well,
game back.
listen.
No Minka Fitzpatrick.
Listen, it wouldn't be the first time he's Steeler.
I see what you did there.
Yeah.
Finger on nose, touche.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, we got to pull up this clip here of Francis Tiafoe. I know you're not the biggest tennis
You
fan.
you hold down the.
But
tennis.
you do
intro
know,
this.
you did see the other day that Roger Federer played his last match. It was a doubles match with Rafael.
Well, I didn't say I heard
Nadal.
about it.
We thought you heard about it.
I heard about
Because
it.
you wouldn't have watched that if it was in your backyard.
No, they could be playing it in my living room, and I'd go upstairs to watch the football game.
Gotcha. Okay, that's what I remember. But you do know that it was played, and Roger
Okay.
Federer and Nadal lost. So this reporter comes
doubles?
in.
Was it
This
doubles?
reporter comes in doubles.
Yeah.
This reporter comes in and asks Francis if he's going to apologize for beating Roger
What a
Federer.
stupid-
This is
in his
America.
final
We
match.
don't
Play this.
apologize.
Yeah, this is why y'all can't win a world war.
Did you apologise to Roger after beating him on Friday night, and will you apologise to
Absolutely
after
not.
tonight?
Absolutely not. I want to see him lit, but I'm not going to apologize to him. He's got a lot to apologize after the last 24 years of beating everybody on the team. I won't apologize, but I will say thank you for having me in this amazing event. What he's done for the game. I'll also say, thank you for what he did for the game. He's a class act. So happy to know him, happy to call him a friend, happy to call him a colleague, and best wishes in the second act, but I will not apologize.
I think that was absolutely the perfect answer. You want me to apologize for losing? How about you apologize for beating everybody?
How about that reporter
30 years?
Imagine going in and asking that question.
That means that lets me know you never played.
That's how you know that person never played anything.
That's exactly right.
Any competitive sport.
That's not how it works.
You apologize for winning.
Like this isn't cotillion.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm sorry, it's the truth.
That I also would not watch if it were in my living room.
Yeah, no, they tried to get me to go to that. I was like, look, I'm too busy out there, living.
I don't know what that is. I'm be honest.
Last one.
Spoons on the left, forks on the right. Who cares? Let's eat food tonight.
Last one. NASCAR update. Kurt Busch, maybe concussion.
Yeah, so Kurt Busch said he hopes to race again this year, which he will. I mean, you look right now, Joey Logano's leading. I think Kurt Busch is going to be fine. It's coming down to it. We're diving into NASCAR a little bit more and more, and Blaine's absolute thorough analysis the other day I thought was really captivating. Blaine, how would you say you describe NASCAR?
There's a lot of things that go into it. You got to start the engine. All right, you got to make sure the tires look good. All right, and then you're going to spend the next 3 hours turning left. All right, guys? All right, so let's really lock it in. Let's focus up. The thing about me is, don't let me get one of those headsets.
I don't know.
Because the last thing we're doing is talking about you actually racing.
Yeah, I don't know who turned left quicker, NASCAR drivers or Chris Wallace.
And I just don't understand, I watched a video the other day, just two NASCAR. I don't know if it was NASCAR, but it's something around they were getting in a fight. And this dude's just trying to piece this guy through the window. There's netting.
Oh, yeah, I saw
He
that.
has a helmet on. How about you let the dude get out of the car?
Yeah, stop jumping people
Tough
in the
guy.
car.
Let him get out of the car. And then, look, I'm all for fighting. Y'all know me. I condone it. Sometimes violence is necessary. It really is. There's levels in life where violence is necessary. But let the man get out of the car, you bum.
Yeah. It's kind of like Mike Evans hitting
dude.
somebody when he's not looking.
It's
It's about the same.
Good teammate.
There's
Good
levels.
the same thing.
You don't mess with Tom Brady.
I do want to say this, though, our last rapid fire before we bring Matt in here, get to break real quick. Steve Nash saying he doesn't care if Ben Simmons ever shoots a jump shot, to me, is code for, dude, please don't shoot.
Yeah.
He's unique. He's got a unique skill set, which he does. All right. But the fact that you're a guard and he's like, don't shoot. He's like, I don't care if he ever shoots.
Yeah.
That'd be like to me to be like, oh, yeah, well, my guy makes cakes for a living, but I don't care if he ever bakes.
Yeah. Two things for me on that is one, I stopped listening to Steve Nash after I saw him do those TikToks.
Yes.
Yeah, it was bad.
And two, when any girl ever asks me, whenever tells me she doesn't like guys who play games in a relationship, I just send her a picture of Ben Simmons. Trust me, I don't play games.
Look, I like that. He said his mental headspace is in a good spot. We'll see. Speaking of split, we'll see how it is tomorrow. But if you want to watch the rest of this, remember you can listen here if you want to keep it here. Head over to the Daily Wire Plus. Become a member. Listen on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Subscribe. Leave a 5-star review and share it with all your friends. We got Matt Moscona coming up to talk some LSU, Auburn. We're going to talk some Yankees. Yes, they clinched the division. Woo-hoo! Cool story.
Scotty.
We'll see how it goes. We'll be right back with Matt Moscona. Don't go anywhere. Subscribe. Well, you decided to return. Smartest thing you've done today, and it's not even 9 o'clock yet. Matt Moscona, after further review, wearer of many hats, doer of many things, bourbon connoisseur. Say he can cook a pretty good steak, too, but I think that's a lie. Matt Moscona, what's up, man? How's it going?
Wonderful. I love LSU Auburn week. I'm fired up.
I bet you do this year. Look, you know us. We're not going to beat around the bush. Auburn's not exactly loaded with talent this year. It seems like Brian Harsin is kind of on his way out. But when you look at this game, to me, Robbie Ashford is like diet Jaden Daniels. Like he's like a worse version of Jaden Daniels. very athletic. They can both run. He just struggles to throw the ball effectively past 10 yards. Jaden's a better thrower. But when you look at this game, to me, when you have quarterbacks that aren't the greatest throwers, that are athletic and can run and can extend the play and are a problem in the quarterback run game, it's going to come down to the run game. That's what it's going to come down to, in my opinion. Both offensive lines are a little bit beat up. Auburn's center is out for the game, going to be out, I think, 4 to 6 weeks, somewhere around there. I know LSU's down a guard. When you look at this game, Maddie, what is the biggest key in your eyes?
So I kind of disagree on the run game piece for Auburn. I think
all right, Matt Moscona, good to have you on here. We appreciate it. No, go ahead.
I think for LSU, the advantage they'll have over almost anyone they play are their athletes on the outside. So it's going to be Jaden's ability to get the ball to Kayshon Boutte and Malik Neighbors and Jack Besh, Brian Thomas. I mean, LSU kind of has an embarrassment of riches at receiver right now, to where their biggest problem is finding ways to get all these guys involved. And maybe part of that is, I just know that LSU's offensive line isn't great, that they don't have a Fournette, a Geis, a Jeremy Hill this year, that stud ace running back. So, I mean, Jaden Daniels is going to be LSU's leading rusher this year out of necessity. And he's really dynamic when he runs the football, guys. We talked about this in fall camp, where I talked, like, he is a dynamic runner and he makes plays with his feet. And Saturday on the Plains, he'll be LSU's leading rusher because he's going to have to be. And I think it's really just going to come down to, can Jaden protect the football and get the ball to the playmakers on the outside?
Yeah, it's just when I look at it, LSU, and as a team, you never want to be in predictable downs, especially on third down, 3rd and 7s, 3rd and 8s. But we know Jaden is not an elite level thrower. He's a good enough thrower. Vertically down the field, I think he's still getting a feel on that a little bit. When you have a guy that can extend a play as long as him, the scramble drill's as an effective play as any. But when you have a quarterback that is your main rusher, and I agree with you 100%, Matt, I think he's one of the top 3-4 rushing quarterbacks in the country. I'd put Jalen Daniels from Kansas on that list and a couple other guys. But if LSU cannot get in 2nd and 5 and 3rd and 3s, he loses his effectiveness so much. Because you go back to the Mississippi State game. Where did they kill Mississippi State? On what, 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5? He was finding Malik Neighbors on intermediate routes, short routes. And it's funny watching Malik turn into the security blanket after he was a guy that dropped the punts against Florida State, and that ended up really costing you there at the end. I'm glad to see a young guy make up for that. But I do want to move on, because you had a point, Matt. You were talking about this hurricane and games being moved and things like this. If people haven't heard you, do you mind kind of rehashing that a little bit? Because I believe it's, 6 years almost to the day?
Yeah, I don't know that I want to relitigate the whole thing, but so 6 years ago, LSU and Florida's game was disrupted by Hurricane Matthew. And first and foremost, guys, obviously, Godspeed to everybody in Florida.
For sure, yeah.
You live in the Gulf Coast, as I have my whole life. Everybody's going to deal with storms, and it's awful, and what's happening there is awful. But I think there are coexisting truths here. There are 2 points that are not mutually exclusive. You can certainly have empathy toward the people that are going through and will be going through the recovery of Hurricane Ian, and also have the conversation about what you do when events are inevitably having to be moved or rescheduled as a result of storms. And there are precedents and protocols that need to be set. And 6 years ago, LSU and Florida got into a very ugly public spat over this whole thing. And what it came down to was LSU, the week of that game, early in the week, was trying to make any concession they could to get the game played. LSU offered to play it on Sunday. They offered to play it on Monday. They offered to play it in the morning. They offered to fly in, fly out the same day, because there's no hotels. Okay, well, fly in, fly out same day. They said, well, they don't want to take away first responders. So LSU offered, let's play it in an empty stadium. Let's go to a neutral site. LSU offered to host the game. And while none of those situations are obviously ideal, you do what you have to do. I mean, I'll remind you that in 2005, when Hurricane Katrina hit, the largest natural disaster our country's ever seen, LSU played a home game in Tempe, Arizona. When LSU played Tennessee in the Katrina year, they played them on a Monday night. Tennessee flew in and flew out the day of the game. It's not ideal, but it's sometimes what you have to do.
Yeah.
In 2015, there was awful flooding in Columbia, South Carolina, and LSU ended up hosting South Carolina for a South Carolina home game in Tiger Stadium. These are just things that happen. And so earlier this week when Florida and if you remember what happened in that situation, Herb Vincent with the SEC, who's a very smart guy, ultimately found a loophole or a rule where he said, look, to play in the SEC championship game, you have to play 8 conference games. And so while LSU was content to just not play the game, Florida needed to play the game to be able to go to Atlanta. So ultimately, LSU was made to cancel a game that it had scheduled with South Alabama for later in the season, and they put Florida in that date in Tiger Stadium, which angered a lot of Florida people. But LSU's stance was, why should we cancel a home game, especially coming off of catastrophic flooding in Louisiana, in Baton Rouge earlier that year, because you weren't willing to budge earlier. So I guess, guys, all that just to say, earlier this week, Florida very proactively moved their game this week with Eastern Washington to Sunday, which is exactly which was the recommended path 6 years ago, which it was athletic director Jeremy Foley, but he was unwilling to make any of those concessions. And they did this time. So hopefully and look, the other part of that, guys, is Greg Sankey was a newly minted SEC commissioner in 2016.
Yeah.
So I think you had a couple of veteran athletic directors who kind of were running roughshod over the substitute teacher.
Yep.
And that is a very different situation now because Greg Sankey is very firmly in control of the conference.
Yeah, he went from substitute teacher to superintendent pretty quick.
Yeah, he did. Matt, it's great to see you, buddy. Since we last spoke after the Florida State game, LSU is 3-0. Y'all just touched on the Auburn game. After that, you host an undefeated Tennessee team. Now, Josh Heupel looks to have that machine going strong. The defense against Florida, they bended a little bit, but they didn't break. Is Tennessee legit?
Offensively, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, they got dudes, and Hendon Hooker might be the best quarterback in the SEC right now, with all respect to Bryce Young. I think the key to beating Tennessee this year, because they look defensively, they will give up yards and points. I mean, they couldn't really get stops against Florida either in that ball game. I think the key against Tennessee is going to be, if they have 12 possessions in a ball game, can you come up with 6 stops? And if they score 6 times, can you hold them to field goal attempts on 3 of them?
Yep.
And so if you hold them to 31 points, can you score 34? I think that's going to be the path to beat Tennessee. There will be a one-off day. When in 2019, that great LSU offense with Burrow and Chase and Jefferson and all those guys, I mean, they played a game in Tiger Stadium against Auburn that ended up in the 20s. And it was just a sluggish day where LSU had like 4 trips inside the red zone, maybe 2 trips inside the 5 where they came away with no points. I mean, it was just weird, So sometimes those games happen, but offensively, Cone, I mean, Tennessee scares the bejeepers out of everybody. I mean, they can move it up and down the field on anybody, and I suspect they will when they come into Baton Rouge next week.
Yeah, they look like a well-oiled machine. I want to ask you about the Saints really quick, okay? Is it Andy Dalton time in New Orleans, or would that only exacerbate the problems, Matt?
You're killing me, Cone. Yeah, listen, man. There's nobody that was a bigger supporter of the Saints giving Jameis this go than me. But the man has a literal broken back.
Yeah.
Like, guys, I have chronic back issues. Whenever I slip a disc, like I'm Loratab muscle relaxers on the couch for like a week.
Same here.
This dude's out there trying to play NFL football with a broken back. It's just so obvious he's not effective. So, I mean, you played 12 quarters of football, you've scored 51 total points, and 38 of them are in the fourth quarter when you're playing catch-up. I mean, it's just not sustainable. Hey, guys, this is why you went and signed Andy Dalton. This is the reason. Because for each of the last 3 years, your starter's gotten injured, and you've had to play the backup. It's why you signed Jameis Winston when you did. It's why you signed Teddy Bridgewater when you did. It's to have a guy who has starting experience that if you come up against it, can go play. And like, man, it's just, yes. So yes, Cone, it was time for Andy Dalton 2 games ago.
Okay.
Let the man with a broken back, let his broken back heal, and let the other guy play.
Spinal.
Well, it's funny that, not even really funny. It was just interesting. The announcers before the last game were like, here comes Jameis Winston. He's got a couple fractures in his back. Let's see how it affects him. It's like, what? They'd be like, hey, he just got shot by a bazooka before the game started. Let's see how it affects him. His legs are gone, but let's see how it affects
It's
him.
an interesting strategy.
Yeah, it's bold. See if it pays off.
Jameis, he's got that dog in him.
He's got that dog in it. X-ray came back. There's
All the
a
way
dog
back
in
from
there.
Hueytown. He's got that dog. He's standing on tables letting people know about it. Well, Matt, last time we had you on here, there's a lot of questions about the Yankees.
Here we
yes.
go.
Here
Yes.
we go.
Yes.
Here
Good, Matt.
we
Yeah.
go.
Yes.
Now they've won 9 out of 10.
Yes, sir.
Home run champion.
Yes, sir. It feels so good to clinch the AL East. Judge just hits another tank. He ties a home run record. Matt, I want to say congratulations. A little love-hate relationship. Well, I mean, you're an LSU fan. I hate you for that, but you're a Yankees fan, so I love you for that. We're talking about LSU Auburn. We're talking about the Yankees, but let's go around the college football landscape. What other matchups are you excited about this weekend, Matty?
Kentucky Ole Miss.
Me too. That's my favorite game this week.
Hashtag me too.
I think, it's interesting because, they got the 11 a.m. treatment, but because it's just not a good logo game, right? I mean, nobody really cares about Kentucky.
It's like
Ole Miss.
a top 15 game. They're
Right. But it matters so much, man. Is Kentucky legit? I mean, Ole Miss has looked really good, but I think, guys, we all talked about this in Atlanta at media days. If they got past this Kentucky game, they were going to be 7-0 playing LSU, just because now their schedule November is a bear for Ole Miss, but they could get there potentially 8-0. So I'm fascinated by that game. And then, I think we all know that Bama's going to steamroll Arkansas, but or as I call them, the Arkan frauds.
You think they cover 17, Matt?
Sure, why not?
Please don't sound concrete in that.
I mean, I gave up on betting Alabama games years ago just because I don't want to watch them ever have success or root for anything good. But yes, you're not going to lose money betting Alabama to cover football.
Sure.
It's just if you bet them to cover all year, you're going to make money. I call Arkansas the Arkan frauds, and it's not that I necessarily hate them. It's just this is 2 years in a row now where they've made their way all the way up into the top 10, and it's just completely not justified. Sam Pittman's done a good job, but come on. So the other one is Texas A&M Mississippi State, because Jimbo's got a lot of pressure, y'all. If you want to avoid 8-4, the Texas 8-4 label, you better go win in Starkville, and they're a slight dog in that game, and I understand why. Think about it, guys, like back-to-back ranked wins after the App State loss. And next week is the big game against Bama that everybody's talked about for a year now.
Mm-hmm.
And now you get this little sleepy 3 o'clock Saturday kick in Starkville with weird Mike Leach. And man, this has let down written all over.
Like this is, you've seen it. You saw Mississippi State last week. And most teams lose games they don't win. Mississippi State really lost that game. If you go back and watch, so many drops that were an unbelievably important situation. The drop punt brought LSU back in that game to me when it had gotten stale. Because Zach Arnett's one of the best DCs in the country that nobody talks about. Him and Ryan Walters from Illinois, Jim Leonard from Wisconsin. You go around the country, there's some really good young DCs. Zach's one of them. But Will Rogers, you got an experienced offensive line and weapons around. I like Mississippi State. I locked them in at -2.5 on the sharp earlier. I think they should be the favorite. I would be surprised if A&M won this game, even though I think going to Max Johnson was the right move. Obviously, you've seen as much as we talked about that. But when I look at A&M, you better be glad you beat Arkansas. Because if you didn't beat Arkansas, you're staring 0-3 down the pipe after losing to App State, then beating a Miami team that got absolutely boat raced by Middle Tennessee. But Blaine, let's get to the Booster Club real quick if we got some questions for Matt.
Yeah, let's go to, I got a question here from George. He says, Matt, where do you think LSU would be ranked if they had bested the Florida State Seminoles?
They probably, I'm trying to remember if they were receiving votes before the season started. But yeah, because I don't know if beating Florida State would have gotten them in. I don't think it would have. But at this point, if 4-0 had they beaten Florida State, they would be somewhere, I think, in the low 20, or I guess the 20-ish range, somewhere in that range, because they still don't have a quality win. And it's one thing to talk about here, man. Like LSU's looked good the last 3 weeks, but let's not try to overvalue wins over Southern Mississippi State and New Mexico. LSU's an improving football team, but I mean, this will be very telling. Can you go on the road and beat a team like Auburn?
Yeah, and again, this isn't a super talented Auburn team. We've seen it, but Jordan Hare, crazy things happen. Look, last week, somebody pulled the wand out there in the fourth quarter, little Patronum spell, and then hit him with,
the Bermuda Triangle, man.
It's actually like a wand on Amazon that shoots like little flames. Like it'll shoot a flame like 40 yards. It's like $60 on Amazon.
You mean what? Don't they call those the rocket? What
you mean you used to have to run?
Hold on. The fire Roman candles. Isn't that a Roman candle?
Somewhat like that, yes. But it's
Roman candle, yes.
Yeah.
Shoots little fireballs.
You used to have to go to Hogwarts for that. Now you can get it off Amazon.
$60. I mean, that's a steal.
That is
honest.
a steal.
You get to be a magician for $60.
I can shoot fire out of a wand for $60.
Absolutely.
Sign me up.
All right, we got a
Hagrid
question
coming
here
down the
from
motorcycle.
Bubby. I mean, Matt, you knew this was coming. I mean, with your backdrop, you knew this was coming. All right, he wants to know, what's your go-to bottle of bourbon?
So I got about 250 bottles in my house.
God, they'd have loved you during the Prohibition.
There's no such thing as like a go-to. It's like walking into a candy store. Like, do you want chocolate-covered strawberries? Do you want gummy bears? Do you want ice cream? Do you want brownies? Like,
He's a Willy Wonka.
Willy Wonka. The adult Willy Wonka.
Out of my chocolate river.
Yeah, Moscona's got a top hat and a cane, and he's dancing around the house pointing at things.
Let me know if you send out any golden tickets.
Yeah.
Right. Well, Cone, you have a golden ticket to come drink at my house anytime you want. You make it down here, you got it.
Thank you,
all
sir.
three of you. But I will tell you, my favorite new bottle I scored is a bottle of 7-year Willet Rye. Their normal release is 4-year Willet, but the 7-year, I had it again last night, is just fantastic.
Matt, question: who do we beat in the World Series and how many games?
I actually picked the Yankees to win the World Series before the season. Not a homer pick, by the way, because I picked, and I'll tell you where I screwed up. I picked the Blue Jays to win the division, but the Yankees to win the World Series.
I got the Blue Jays winning the World Series. They're sneaking in the wild card. There's still a chance.
Still a chance.
It wouldn't surprise me. I had the Yankees beating the Braves.
Please let that happen, Matt. Let the Braves Yankees be the World Series matchup, Matt. You're penciled in every day of the week.
You have not. You think you've seen Flaming Dragon? Let that happen.
Who knows? Y'all might not even be the Braves.
Remember in that movie, The Breakup, where they put a piece of tape down the, to divide the house? That's what it's going to be here, Matt.
By that time they won't even be the Braves. They'll be the Atlanta voting IDs.
Yeah.
Hey, Moscona, real quick, LSU Auburn score. You got one yet? One in mind that's kind of percolating up there?
I think it's going to be a close game. I've seen too many weird games in that stadium to think LSU's just going to go walk.
Yeah.
So something in the 20s, something 20, 27, 20-ish.
Auburn's going to score 20? How?
Yeah. I was going to say, who did Auburn kidnap to score 20?
The only way Auburn's game is pours.
Yeah, well, we'll see. The Jaden Daniels-Robbie Ashford matchup's going to be pretty interesting.
Robbie Ashford's a baseball.
Moscona, thanks so much, my friend. It's always great having you on the show.
All right, guys.
All right, brother. See ya. All right, one of our favorites.
That guy's awesome.
All right, let's go ahead, get to the Booster Club lane. Let's get to the Booster Club while I walk over.
Lawrence Robinson.
Lawrence. Oh, hey, Mr. Robinson.
He's coming in with a $9.99 donation.
Somebody dropped the 50.
Guys, we are breaded today.
Dude, my 401k, even though the stock market's absolutely tanking like
this is a show, or is this Panera Bread? Because we are breaded. All right, let's go. Who was the last offensive-minded college football coach to win a natty? Seems like offensive-minded coaches don't win the natty as often as defensive-minded coaches.
You want to know why? Because defense wins championships.
He's right.
But I will say, look, football's cyclical. We always talk about that. Whoever comes up with the new smart offensive, design, whether it's, up-tempo or spreading you out in the air raid or like Art Briles used to do with the splits or the wide receivers, those are the guys that can go steal one. But kind of look at the way football's going. Oregon, Chip Kelly, spread it around. Can't win the big one. Go lose to Auburn. Then what happens? You bring in Mario Cristobal, physical, offensive line, run the ball. Then who do you bring in? Dan Lanning, defensive, right? You're kind of seeing the shift. Oklahoma. You got Lincoln Riley. We're communicating with one hand. He's putting Cerebro on. It's making sense. Can't win the big one. You get there. Who do you bring in? Brent Venables, defensive guy. Look at the SEC. Kirby Smart, defensive guy. Nick Saban, Defensive guy. Who's really won anything in the SEC? They've been what? Defensive guys. It's the truth. Now, in the past,
with phenomenal offenses.
As a team, but that still doesn't change that you're because look, I do think we get caught up a little bit too much in this head coach is a defensive guy. This head coach is an offensive guy. A head coach, it's got to be a full-throated, wholesome, full team thing. All right, you can't just sit there and spend all your time with the offense because now the defensive coordinator seems like the head coach for the defensive players. That to me was the hardest thing to differentiate, was not spending too much time on one side of the ball.
But the last offensive-minded head coach to win the Natty, that was
Jimbo.
Urban Meyer?
Is Jimbo really an offensive-minded head coach?
Yes, he is.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
it's either it goes. I'd go Jimbo. You go 2018. Then you got Ohio State in 2014.
Ryan Day.
Then you got Jimbo 2013, and then you have.
How about 2019 LSU? Because I think Joe Brady was really the head coach.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, was Ed Orgeron? Did he even really know what was going on? What side of the ball was Ed Orgeron on? The drunk side?
Yeah.
He was on the drunk side of the ball. All right, speaking about drunk side, you know what, Blaine, one more from the Booster Club. Then,
All right,
I'm going to get this
find it. And scrolling. Let's go to M. Hutton. He says, the Dodgers are the best team in baseball, highest run differential, best ERA, home field throughout the postseason. It might be a walk for the Dodgers.
I don't believe you. The Dodgers will find a way to blow it when they play the Atlanta
They
Braves.
are
I don't want to play in the wild card series. Why are we losing to the Nationals? Washington can't get anything done, yet you lose to them? All right, so last night, 2-0, 2 Nerfies. Cool story, who cares? Moving on to today, we got football. Give me BYU over 43.5 points at plus 105. All right, you say, Jake, that's a lot of points. Have you seen Utah State? Now, I love Blake Anderson, and they won the Mountain West last year, but this team is absolute hot dog water encased in an absolute factory of disgustingness and ugliness. Offensively and defensively, they're going to try and go fast and get the ball out. It's not going to work. They're good against the pass. Utah State is. They're good against the pass. Guess what they're not good against? The run. They're horrible against the run. BYU may run for 3 bills in this game. So give me BYU over 43.5 points. I'm feeling maybe a 52-13 type of game, 52-10, 52-7 right there at the line. Then we got to make a unit play. All right, we got to make a unit play. It's getting late early. Friday's last day of the month. Give me Joe Mixon to score a touchdown. Give me Joe Mixon to have 70-plus rush yards and Jamar Chase to have at least 80 or more receiving yards at plus 550. So we got a plus 105 and a plus 550. It may not get us all the way back, but we're trying to get the units up.
Okay.
Like a new apartment building.
Yeah, I'm going to go with a big unit push here, too, towards the end of the month.
Jones
I
going
want
for gold.
any player in this Bengals-Dolphins game to have over 200 receiving yards at plus 2,000. If ever there was a game to pick to do
Jamar,
this,
come
I think it would be now. Yeah, Jamar Chase.
And it
my
can be
fantasy
any player on either team, right?
Higgins, either team. Tyler Boyd. We go Tyreek Hill. Jalen Waddle's going to play.
Please, Jalen Waddle.
Any player with over 200 receiving yards at plus 2,000. And then, just to double down on the Jamar Chase here, on being on my fantasy team, you've underperformed so far. Jamar, you've underperformed. It's time for a breakout game. I think tonight at home is that night. Over 125 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns at plus 1,700.
So let me get this right. If Jamar Chase goes for 200 receiving yards
and catches 2 touchdowns,
you get a 3,700 units.
I'm building apartment
That is
complexes.
absolutely Peter Parker
building
up the side of a building.
complexes.
All right, Blaine.
Man, there's nothing like great unit pushes. I hope you hit both those. That'd be a 37.
Blaine really doesn't know.
But if he has 198 receiving yards and 1 touchdown,
look, you just don't need T.
Why would you even?
You just
throw
don't
that
need
up?
T.
because I got to balance things out. We
Yeah.
got really excited, and now we got to live in reality.
Best
I respect
best DBs out for the Dolphins. I mean, that's the guy that would be guarding Jamar Chase. So I like to bet. I'm gonna go 2 dog bets too, but they're not super dogs or anything. 46 and 39 on the month. I'll take it. Give me BYU minus 25.5. I think the spread's 24.5, 23.5. But I went ahead and took that alternate spread. Utah State's a bad football team. They got beat 35-7 by Weber State. That's plus 110. Give me Miami plus 4.5 and the under at 56.5. That's plus 130. Nice. This line's at 3.5 for the Bengals and the icy white. So, I don't blame them. But I do think this will either be a field goal or a 4-point game. Give me the under 56.5. That's still a lot of points at plus 130. Guys, let's finish. We got one more day after this. Let's finish out strong.
Yeah, Baby Cone, him and Blaine are in a fight right now. He's going to take the Dolphins plus 7 at minus 195. And then a Burrow rushing touchdown, right, at plus 500 little QB sneak. Let's get it over there. Joey B. Stick
He's on the run a lot.
I don't need that.
You never know.
He's
Before
on
we
the
get to
run
the
a
booster
lot.
bets, bring up the Aaron Judge clip. Bring it up. There's no way we can have a sports show and not show this clip. All right, the hardest one to get is 61 to tie it. People think it's the one to break it. No, it's the one to tie it. Let's just sit back and enjoy watching Aaron Judge make history without using performance-enhancing drugs. Let's go ahead and watch it.
And the 3-2.
And it's
America!
watch this guy blow it.
This. Oh, okay.
You got to catch that ball.
Okay.
I am diving in the pin. If I have to break an ankle to get this ball, he will not forget.
Look,
this
Aaron Judge just tied Roger Maris for the home run regular season record. You've got a decent amount of games to be able to break it, but that to me is not the biggest story on this play.
What's the biggest story?
The biggest story on this play was this fan. Now, we talk about using the words missed opportunities in life. This is literally a missed opportunity. This ball's worth $1 million, most likely, somewhere around there. You bought these tickets. You brought your glove, and you sat in the right spot. You want to talk about Wonka's factory? You bought the chocolate bar from the gas station, but right when you got home, didn't even open it because you decided to go on a diet after looking in the mirror. You missed this ball. You have nobody to blame but yourself. Blaine, I'd be sick. Let's go ahead and just watch this. Let's play the clip. You got to make this play. This is the biggest error all year. Let's go ahead and play it. You can see it. He's got the glove out. You got to make that play, coach. You got to make that play. That's a life changer. Now, all of a sudden, you're afraid to get married because you don't have enough money. Her dad doesn't like you because
the rest of your life,
you're broke and he doesn't think you had a chance.
The rest of your life, you're going to be thinking about this. The rest of your life will be a Pablo Escobar gif of you sitting by yourself.
You better invent an app.
Hands behind your back, just wondering what could have been. You just dropped $1 million.
We talk about the bag.
$1 million.
Yeah.
A milli, at least a milli. You did everything right.
Or you could have
bought the
given.
tickets.
You got to the game.
You got some brews, maybe a glizzy.
Maybe a glizzy, maybe a
in the
straw.
third. You're ready for it. Every time he gets up, he walks the first time. I don't know if he walked the second time, but it's coming right. Everything you've worked for is coming right at you, right?
You dropped it.
You probably played baseball as a kid. You're probably pretty good, all right? Then you get here and you blew it.
Yeah, that was something like that. Catching that ball, you could have been like estranged from your father. That could have been the thing that brought y'all back together.
Yeah.
Like what you lost there is just.
I heard that he was going to give it back for a photo op with Aaron Judge.
Cap.
That's
No
not
one
what-
reacts
no
like
one-
the way
no
you
one-
reacted
yeah.
from a guy who's
No.
going to give that
For
ball.
free.
Here's what
For a
happens.
free
That ball
bat.
gets caught, I instantly leave the stadium. I don't care about the final score. I don't care what else happened. Nobody look me in the eyes. Like, it's just nobody look me in the eyes. Nobody touch me. I don't care how long
Oh, I'm gone.
known me. I don't care if you gave birth to me. Don't look at me. Don't touch me in the eyes. It's like winning the lottery. I'll get that lottery ticket. Guess what? I'm not you know who I'm calling? I'm calling a team of security or Keanu Reeves. Those are the two people I'm calling. Don't look at me. Don't talk to me. We're going to make sure we get this done. Then we'll get excited. There's no high-fiving. There's no excitement. There's me, the ball, my glove, leaving the stadium, and really thinking about what the first thing I'm going to buy with all this cake.
Look, I don't want to beat him down probably already more than he's beat himself
He needs
down,
this.
But you blew it.
You blew it.
You blew being
You did.
rich.
And you won't blow it if you join us at 11:30 a.m. Central for an all-access live today. So we will see you later. Go to dailywire.com/discuss. Really easy. Not disgust, discuss. dailywire.com/discuss. You may be disgusted. I don't know. I don't think you will, but come check it out. So come prepared with your questions. Football, baseball, basketball, love life. Who knows? Dating advice. We've gotten a couple of those too. And I promise you, I will get to the mailbag tomorrow, David. Do not let me forget to the mailbag. I'm asking you as a friend, a colleague, and a brother, do not let me forget the mailbag tomorrow.
I will not let you forget.
Don't let me forget.
What y'all talking about?
Poll?
The mailbag?
Yes.
Okay. First donation, the Draco.
Draco, pull it out.
$4.99 donation. Hashtag tell Blaine the Yankees will lose in the NLDS.
ALDS.
He just.
I know.
And I just read what's in the prompter. And hashtag Ask Jake, will the Braves sweep or at least win this A series in this playoff atmosphere? Well, first of all, Draco, the Yankees will not lose. And Jake, will the Braves sweep or at least win the series in a playoff atmosphere?
The Braves will win every series in the playoffs on their way to a second straight World Series.
Who are the
and world
Braves?
domination.
Who are the Braves? That's not y'all's thing anymore, guys.
Oh, don't you take that from us.
You gotta come up
You
with
can
something
never
new.
take
Don't
that.
you take that from us. I'm out here catching home run balls.
You?
Yeah.
How dare you?
Well, make sure you subscribe everywhere. Check us out, TikTok. Poll real quick, Blaine.
Tex-Mex food good.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, 65%.
Yes, 64%.
Yes, 78%.
Golly, man, how many people from Texas we got in there?
Get some
Be better.
for lunch.
Be better. All right, appreciate you guys joining us. Check us out in the morning. It's Flamin' Dragon Friday tomorrow. I will not call Blaine
Yes, you will.
by his name. No, I won't.
Yes,
I won't do it. Make sure you subscribe and like the chances of that guy ever having another opportunity to catch a ball as big. We're gone.